Graves. And as you know, she passed away on December 18th. One of the kinder circumstances that resulted from the process of her illness was that during the fall last year, all of us were able to gather in Milton at Sal and Randy's house on a number of occasions. And it brought all of us a lot closer and provided us with an opportunity for support and comfort for each other, which I think we all needed. And all of us were together on December 18th. We resolved then that we wanted to gather again at a time and place that would permit us and friends of Louise, Bowie Graves, to meet and to remember her life and to remember our relationships with her. We settled on this weekend in part because of the historic event which unfolds here in Washington tomorrow, and also because spring was Mom's favorite time of year. I remember that come this time of year, she was always looking for the first crocus blooms. She'd be scratching through the snow in the yard, looking to see if some little green shoots had broken through. And she always looked for the daffodils. Daffodils were something special in our house as long back as I can remember. And in thinking on that, I recalled a poem of William Wordsworth, who happens to be my favorite romantic poet. Mom always accused me of being a sappy romantic, particularly when I would put on Rachmaninoff's No. 2, and she was very much into quiet chamber music. But this poem conjures up images of her for me, and I wanted to read it to you. It's a poem many of you will know. It's called I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show he had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. And while that is sort of sappy and romantic, it reminds me of her because I think of the daffodils. Now, it's not my intent to speak for very long, nor to recite a eulogy for Mom. Each of us knew her in our own ways, and that's part of what we'd like to talk about today. For the six of us, we were her children. We carry certain baggage associated with that relationship. And while we shared some experiences with her in recent years, except for, I guess, Robin, the rest of us were not her travel companions. We were not her regular weekly tennis partners or opponents. We didn't work alongside her in Parks and History, nor did we work alongside her usually for the Vassar book set, all of which she spent a lot of time doing. Dan Blanchette and I were talking about the impact that Mom's passing has on each of us, and certainly for the children, each of us in our own lives, in our own places, elsewhere around the country, it has an impact and is a daily reminder for many of us. But for those of you who were here in Washington with her and would see her on a daily or weekly basis, the loss in another sense probably has to be even more acute because she was an integral part of what you did. That's not to say that I don't think about picking up the phone and pressing the button on my speed dialer that had her number on it, which I can recite, of course, by heart as well. I do that almost daily. But there is a different relationship. So we want to ask you to share with us some of your experiences with her. Now, it's not to put pressure on you as such, but we know that there are friends such as Nan and Benny and Ruthie and Laura and Penny, all of whom in recent years in particular have been her travel companions, her confidants. Jenny Spellman, Jenny Celine now, who was, I don't know, my second mother for a time when she would watch over me and report my conduct to my parents. But I digress. We ask you, the six of us ask you for a special gift. We ask you to share with us some of your experiences with Mom so that we can add those to our storehouse of memories for the rest of our days. Sal, do you have something you wanted to share? That's
Dearest Mama, it still surprises me that you're not here with us today. I know you are here in the minds and hearts of your friends and family, but you're not going to breeze through the door swinging your tennis racket, extolling the virtues of your tiny lettuces and sugar snap peas. I've walked round and round a way to speak to you today, and I keep coming up with this. I need to speak to you. You have been a terrific mother, not a perfect mother, but a truly interesting, admirable, emulatable one. You often said you had no idea how you ended up with 6 children. When I turned 35, we compared notes. You told me that at 35, surrounded by 4 children at that time, your birthday longing was to have written a great lyric poem. At 35, I had a career and longed for a child, the weaving wishes of generations. But we found our way to a singular path. I had my beloved children, my blessed marriage, and you had your dream come true in your work as a writer for Parks and History. I felt you came to value family times more and more. You softened and warmed with age. You were such a wonderful example of how to love every minute of life, how to age with vitality and adventure. You were so determined not to be a burden to your children. You couldn't imagine that your children felt differently. You and I spent nearly 4 years visiting retirement communities, but there was always too much life in Washington to be ready to leave. What a terrible twist of fate to come to Boston to babysit, to be diagnosed with inoperable cancer, and to never go home again. That was a formidable task, to tolerate being a dying mother in your daughter's home. One of the things that so impressed me in the final months was that in the face of terrible, debilitating illness, you were so essentially sweet. I might have expected that you would find the helplessness so intolerable that you would have been, understandably, irritable, angry, bitter, and most certainly depressed. And I'm sure you felt some of those things some of the time, but you were above all kind and gentle. I will always remember the sweet smile and, "Hello, darling," with which you would greet me. Thank you for being such a good model in dying as well as in living. Thank you for being such good company. At the risk of sounding like the Academy Awards, there are also other people we would like to thank. To all those who wrote and called, you succeeded in a most difficult job. You not only brought cheer to Mother's days, you truly made her know that she was loved, admired, and appreciated. Feelings she could never quite imagine would belong to her. Thanks to Mother's incomparable neighbor, the poet Joy Krause. And to those who visited from afar, dear Laura, Benny, Nan, Ruthie, Liz, Marty, Ginny, Penny, and Bill. And to those more local, you brought the immediacy of emotional and physical touch and the intimacy of time shared in the final passage. Thanks to the wonderful hospice people, Millie, Christine, and Suzanne, who cared for their beloved patient. and to Elma Gamble and Jerry Maloney, the Irish nurses who were our mother's most constant companions, and who filled the house with laughter and lightness. We owe a debt it will take a lifetime to repay. A blessing upon all my brothers and my sister, and to their spouses and partners, whose many visits gave so much to us all. To my wonderful husband, Randy, and to my darling sons, Dolph and Jesse, I thank you for having the truest kind of love for Mother, and for opening your hearts and home to make the experience of dying a most beautiful one. And finally, I want to offer thanks to Bill Graves, whose devoted mending of fences mattered more to Mother than anything, and brought round the circle that allowed her to let go in peace. Thank you all.
There was a poem written by Beverly Bowie in the book of poems that speaks, at least to me. It's a poem called In the End. And it reads as follows. Who had no choice, I slacked my hand and let you go. With sorrow, Oh, time be gentle and the fates be kind, or if not kind, why then create it. One rumpled note I tuck into your pocket. Read it someday and ravel out the scribbled sense. Brave and full of grace we were, sad and not deterred by sadness. And I who knew what I was losing, knew also that I loved you most to break my heart. And I think that's a feeling that those of us who were there in December felt in substantial measure because of very much of what Sal was talking about, and what Sal was about how she dealt with what she was facing, and yet uncharacteristically for her, how she let us in to share that with her. She was a traditionally more private person who participated in life in a full way, but often would not tell you exactly where you fit in that niche. Sometimes that was good, and sometimes that was bad. And I'm sure there were times when she would have loved to have told me where I didn't fit. Now, I want to go back to where I was, and that is to ask you, I know it's an imposing obligation or question, but is there anyone who has a story remembering Louise who would be willing to share it with us? Any tennis player who remembers that nasty drop shot?
I have a poem I would like to read.
Please.
Shall I finish it?
Please. This is for those of you who do not know, Mom's next door neighbor, stalwart friend, and support Joy Krause.
I wrote this poem on November 1st, when I realized that Louise would not be coming home. The dogwood trees have been very bright and very beautiful in October, as I'm sure you remember. And I kept wishing that she could see. And then the rains came and washed all the leaves away. Louise. Incidentally, I went to her house twice a day to feed the cat while she was out. And I have the cat now. Going to your house at night, I see a red leaf bonded to the sidewalk by the rain. The crimson sings your life, glistens and reaches vibrant in the dark. I find you every place within that house, your years set out in images that must have lifted both the heart and brush of him who made them. Rooms so amassed with tumbled beauty that the ache scoops at my heart, and in the hollow, distant music fails. Was she your friend? We never came to that. We lived next door. acquaintances, hello, but little else. A bit of fruit, a garden's riches shared. Your cat, my charge. When travel spun you off to climes I only know on postcards and the television film. That everything within these rooms is motherless, the books, the wines, the china, copper saucepans, all, I cannot bear. The scenery will be struck, the lights go down, and to the stage will come another play. That other feet should tread your stairs and other bodies rest in spaces that are yours, I cannot bear. Yet we were only neighbors, nothing more. We shared so little that my pain confounds me. Friendship's face we skimmed like waterfalls, the briefest touch. Still, I beheld in you a world entrancing and mundane. Your garden, blueberries and bleeding heart, showed more of poetry than others managed with a field of dreams. These things I read while cosseting the cat. November's rain has brought the dogwoods red from sky to earth, and in that crimson wash I would make you to walk had I the time.
Peter, could we share something?
This is about Louise, not about me.
Okay. My name is Judy Spellman, and this is my mother, Jenny Saline. And we were the Louise neighbors in Holland Hills a long time ago. So these are memories from a long time ago. I forget which ones to share now. But the ones that these involved me so many times that because I used to go over and have dinner with Sal, really, but all the Louise. And Louise would sit at the head of the table and serve everyone food. And then while we were sitting around eating, I would watch her, and she would sit back, and she sort of sat back in the chair, and she had her arm back in the chair, and she would look around at all of her children. And she would look at her children with such a wonderful feeling. I don't know, I can't say what she was feeling, but it looked to me like she just loved her children a lot and loved her family. And the second part of the memory is that that I would watch Bev watching him love her. And there weren't that many books in my family like that, but my dad. So those were very wonderful memories. And the other memory that I have, which is very fluid and is her laughter. Mostly at us, you and me. I was wondering what exactly she was laughing about. Anyway, she would it would start as a silent.
I'll tell you.
Oh no. But it would start as a silent laugh and come from some very deep place, and it was silent for a while, and then this very deep and rich laughter about something I guess you're going to talk about. Would come up from some very special place.
As Judy explained, we live next door to Louise, and before I tell you some of the memories, I have to give you a little bit of background. When my daughter Judy was 6 or 7 or something like that, she went to Burgundy Farm country day school. And she came home early on and told me about this wonderful friend that she had met. Somebody that was just so wonderful. She never met anybody like that. Her name was Sally Bowie. And for weeks I heard about Sally Bowie. Sometime later we moved into Holland Hills, and wonder of wonders, we lived next door to the Bowies. And there was Sally. It was something like it was ordained. Then I met Louise, and I had the same reaction to Louise as Judy and Sally had had. It was sort of, we were in instant sync, I think. I have lots of I'm going to stick to one of them. Louise was a very elegant, classy lady. She had a coming out party. I never knew anybody who had a coming out party. She used to eat her dessert with a soup spoon. I mean, that was a soup spoon. But I guess that was the elegant way to do it. But my background was totally different. My claim to fame was that I had one parent and one family member that was born in the United States. Everybody else came over from the old country. And I didn't know about white gloves until I was about 35 years old. And there was Louise, and there was I, totally different backgrounds, but somehow we meshed. Now, I was pretty skilled in certain traits, and Louise was skilled in others. Now, hers were she was a gentle woman and very refined. I added a different dimension to her life. I was pretty skilled in certain other traits, and one of which was deviousness. And I did my best, and I succeeded. She was an apt pupil in teaching Louise about deviousness. And I think some of our happiest moments were when we were being devious. And I'll tell you just one example. I have this wonderful memory of Louise sitting on my kitchen floor with the cupboard door open and her head inside the cupboard at the head of the laundry chute. She was taking her turn in listening to Judy and Sally. Two girls had just come back from the camp where they had learned about boys. They were determined to educate some of the boys in Holland.
Learn about the boys.
Well, I'll tell you, they wanted to educate some of the boys in Holland Hills who were apparently very slow learners. They were talking about how they were going to teach them how to dance and play other games like, if you'll pardon the expression, spin the bottle. Now, Louise and I, we couldn't both get our heads in at the same time, mainly because there was not enough room, but also we would absolutely convulse. We didn't look at each other, even talk to each other. I'm not going to reveal. But I will tell you that they did invite boys over to try to teach them how to dance, and Lou and I sat on the outside. You know, Holland Hills are all windows, and we sat there watching them try to teach them. It was a total failure, and they finally gave it up. It was fun for us. We loved it. We had many experiences like that. I will always think Louise was just a happy time in my life.
Sure. Thank you both. Holland?
I have very little voice, so I'll do the best I can. I wrote just a short letter, as Sally did, to Louise, who lives in all the hearts of all the people in this room. She was my aunt. Dear, dear Louise, I have tried to remember just when you came out of the shadows, sprang really into the daylight, a known and loving presence in my faith. Maybe I think of it like that because I associate you with a sort of barometer we had as kids, a little house with 2 doors. If the man smiled on the porch, he voted gloom, whereas the woman predicted sunny skies. Did you give that little house to us for Christmas one year? In any case, I remember a millennium ago when you were a vague and somewhat intimidating unknown, and then, without transition, you were my very dear Louise. On the invitation to this gathering, all your names are named but one, generosity. What you gave was always the best. and incredible coffee ice cream, who knows where, ditto the hot fudge sauce. Those cookies from that particular bakery. It was the joyful tone, the sense of being embraced by you, that made those cookies, dear Louise, much more than cookies. Louise, even your questions were capacious, and one felt blessed by being asked. Thank you, thank you, thank you for you.
I'm Jane Conley, an old family friend. My mother, Sally Conley, and Louise were very close friends. I brought a blanket. I wonder if others of you have things that Louise made. It's wonderful to have these things and to find them in the closets now that she's gone. I know we'll always keep them. I know we'll always keep them. I brought also a little bit of a letter that Louise wrote after my mom died, telling a little bit about some of their adventures. In the fall, we must have driven over all the back roads around the Caquipon River, east in West Virginia, arguing over which was the most beautiful maple tree. We celebrated seeing deer and Eliza catching a fish. We picked apples and went on expeditions for peaches. I'll never forget our time in the cherry orchard. It was so beautiful, we couldn't stop picking. We celebrated finding the first arbutus in early spring.
I'm one of Louise's nephews, and she was certainly one of my favorite family members. We shared quite a few things, concern for the Vietnam Memorial. And I was around Washington during the time when Bev was dying and spent some time at the house. So that was really my first personal contact with Louise, which was a very powerful and lasting one. I noticed her booklet there, Let Us Remember, and it reminds me that that word, remember, really means to put back together, remember, and that's what we're about here, putting the various pieces that we hold dear to ourselves about Louise and trying to, in some way, put them together. I have a couple of one recent and one long-time memory to share. The recent one was, I think, a couple of times ago that we saw her when she told us a wonderful story. She always had wonderful stories to tell. But this one was about a trip that she was taking. Someone, I think Peter, had given her a first-class ticket.
That would be John.
Oh, John. I might have known. Anyway, she was, I'm sure the family all knows this story, but for those of you who don't, she was traveling in first class, and there came an announcement that someone who was in steerage would like to change places with someone in first class, and would someone in first class be willing to change? So she said, of course, she would do that. And as she walked back to the back part of the plane, she passed Jesse Jackson going forward. And she told her, I love it. I went to the back of the bus for Jesse. My other very brief memory to tell you is as a family memory. Those of you who were on her Christmas gift list know that she gave wonderful presents. Always seemed to pick out just the right thing. We had a bird feeder which the squirrels finally destroyed last year that she gave us, I don't know how many years ago. But even longer ago than that, she gave us this wonderful thing, which is a piece of fabric about this long. It has some funny little creatures embroidered on it. And at the very bottom is a bell. And we have taken to hanging, it's a Christmas decoration, we took to hanging it in the spot in our home where people pass often. And every time the breeze of someone just walking by rings that little bell. And it strikes me that that's how I remember Louise, that she was that kind of bright spark that rang a little bell and brought you a view of something that was different and interesting and fascinating and fun.
I'm Sally Wells Pfeiffer. I am one of 5 Vassar classmates here today, maybe more than I know there are 5 of us. And our lives were intertwined for the last 54 years in many ways, starting with having our first babies together in Alexandria. One is here and one is over there, and proceeding on from there. I have so many marvelous memories, and I think I would probably break down if I tried to go into some of the lovely ones, but probably not many of you realize that Louise was a mistress of whispered invective. There was a time when I dropped a very heavy weight on her foot when we were changing scenery in the dark at the Vassar Experimental Theater. And I can still feel the heat of the dressing down that I got in that occasion. In fact, for 50-odd years, she kept reminding me of that. But I think, as Peter said at the beginning, I think it's very appropriate that we are here today in view of what is taking place in Washington right now. And as our invitation showed, Lou wearing the banner of the ERA March. She, as we all know, was very much engaged and always in the forefront of civil rights and rights of people of all kinds. And this reminds me of another march which took place over 50 years ago. This was a time when college students from all over the country gathered in Washington to march on the Capitol in support of the American Youth Act. Our slogan was, "We want scholarships, not battleships." And Lou and Aggie Wells and I decided that we had to take part in that march. So we borrowed a car from a friend at Bar. As you probably know, we were not allowed to have cars. We borrowed a car from a friend at Bar, which was an old-fashioned Buick convertible. And we set out. We had to drive all night in order to get there in time for the march. None of us was an experienced driver. And we, I'm afraid, exceeded the speed limit on a good many occasions as we drove through the night. The inevitable happened. 3 young girls in a convertible driving too fast in the middle of the night. We were stopped, first in York, then Baltimore. And every time we were stopped, Louise would look at the policeman with those melting dark eyes. And in that lovely voice, she would say, "Oh, officer, we're so sorry." And naturally, we were waved on. That was Lou. Beauty and brains and talent and that overwhelming charm that no one could resist, from police officers to her bosses at the Supreme Court of the United States, and to those of us who knew her best and loved her devotedly.
Okay, we'll start to jump over Sweet's paperwork for us. The day I learned that Louise was going to come to work, I almost quit my job. This is a strange story, and we shared it many years later. We had been advertising, and we were working up the job description. I think Alice, you might have been there at the time, or it may have been Terry Morton. And we decided what we needed, and all of a sudden, Libby Rowe decided that Louise was going to work at Bucks Newspaper. And all of us were a little concerned because we didn't know Louise. We didn't know how wonderful she was. And I was raving and saying, you know, how I felt usurped. And I think Francesca and Will Shackle both agreed that I should wait it out. And many years later, Louise told me that she'd had a similar experience, that Libby had done this to her. That she had told her that this was a good job for her later years. It was something she didn't have to work very hard at. She would put a few hours a week in. It would all work out. They didn't do very much over there. And I guess I was happy to learn that Libby felt that that was what happened, that because I was very pleased that she didn't try to tell me what to do, and that she trusted me to do what needed to be done. Louise came out and discovered that we did a lot of work with Parks and History, and that she became part of it. And she worked so hard, and I really feel so like we cheated her a little bit, because I know she wanted to travel and she wanted to do so many things, and she felt so dedicated, and she had to work a lot longer than she planned to, and certainly a lot more than Libby told her she was going to have to. And I remember the night, I was at my apartment. I had a book party for the Cherry Blossoms book, and there was just a few of us there. And Albert had some quince blossoms. They were just blooming. And we had a Japanese meter in honor of the cherry blossoms. Joe Cantorac was there. He and she later worked together doing a stamp on an envelope for the Vietnam Veterans Memorial dedication. And we had such a lovely party. We had fresh tuna. And Louise and I spent a lot of time after that, after she worked at President's. We always traveled together and were roommates. She showed me San Francisco, introduced me to her family. I love Louise a lot.
I would just add a postscript, and that is, Maria, you should not feel like you cheated her. I can tell you that one of the really proud moments in her life was when you all were in San Diego for the convention, and the awards were handed out for the publications on which she had worked. And she was so proud of being involved in producing that and having that recognized for something that she participated in producing. That meant an awful lot to her, even if she had to work harder than she expected. Please.
My name is Christine, and I am one of the hospice women who cared for Louise in her last days. I am most unaccustomed to doing this, so I feel I need to do it quickly. I'm not leaving anything to chance. I'm here on my own behalf, but I'm most fortunate to be representing the women who also Peter mentioned at the beginning. Millie Doherty was the primary care nurse of ours who was assigned to Louise and to her family. And I'm also here on behalf of Suzanne Owens, who is one of our chaplains, and also was engaged with Louise at the same time that I was assigned to be her social worker. And clearly, the reason why I felt the need to be here has been, I have heard it resonated in so many beautiful ways that I knew, I was just saying to Liz and Marty in the back, who've been so nice to me since I knew that I would be glad that I had done this, but I am immensely glad that I came ahead and did this. It sort of fits the way in which our lives were touched by Louise. It was sort of a spontaneous, radical, and unreasonable thing for me to just do this and come down here. But I am here to tell you that the brief window of time which we shared with Louise was just that special and warrants in some way the unpredictableness and almost outrageousness of someone like myself coming here and doing this. I am here because I want to be a witness to
that time of her life. I'm hearing all these wonderful memories of other times in this very special life that we're celebrating, and I just want to be one voice and speak to this brief window of time. We knew Louise for only a few weeks, perhaps a month, and clearly it was not. It was more than that. So I have just a couple of things from the other two, and I'd like to just share something. Millie is in Bermuda at the moment, and so we talked before she left, and Sally has come and visit our hospice offices, so we've shared a lot of things since then. But Millie sends her heart and her memories to all of you of having experienced Louise as a very strong, direct, honest, and noble woman, and particularly so when faced with the hard realities which we needed to present her with in a very rapid and continuing way. She was most noble at all times, and Millie has been a hospice nurse for a number of years and has not had many experiences like the one which brings me here to you today. Suzanne, the chaplain, was trying to capture in a sentence who Louise was for her. So apparently she took days and days and days, and then we sat down and she said this to me. So I said, well, let me write it the way you say it because I'll forget it. And she said, who Louise Graves is for me is a living word planted in my heart that is calling me to live a life of excellence. And clearly that was very well thought out and sums it up rather well, I think. Again, I'm also here for myself. I'm here sort of to listen and to gather up what you have to share and try to bring it back to my colleagues as well as I can. I'm here to say that all of the richness and the beauty that you remember and that you celebrate was there in that real short time, and that is the amazing nature of all of this, is that it is still there, and that it struck all of us, and the three of us particularly, when we come together and talk about it, we always have that sort of something that bonds us even closer than we have been. She was engaging. She was funny. She was vulnerable. She was very reflective. She was very much absorbed with all of you, each of you, I'm sure, in each of your ways. First and foremost with her family. This was her conversation. This was her preoccupation, was each and every one of you, either individually, and some names I heard, and most of them were just in her experiences as she would be. Most of all, I would say she was eminently generous, given the limitations of her energy and of time, that she opened herself so generously to us and was willing to engage new people. It was, as we've often said to each other, was a novel, and just struck us so deeply that it was just, the bonds were very intense as they were drawn, but it was just such a wonderful surprise that she would have made space in her last days to engage with new people. She was also impatient with what she thought was the imperfection in the way that she was doing this. She felt there must be a way to do this thing, this dying. There must be a way, and if we can find the right way, it's got to be perfect. And of course, as I'm sure you can imagine, she was doing it as perfectly as she could possibly have done it because of the person that she was. And she did this perfectly as could have been done. Finally, I just want to say something in a lighter way, but I saw Louise 3 or 4 times, and right before she came to us, Sally and Randy's dogs had, and the boys' dog, had puppies.
And I have never had a dog in my life. I killed a goldfish when I was younger. No, I don't have a way with animals. This is not my tip. So I would walk in, and one of the first things Louise would say to you would be, "Have you seen the puppies? Have you seen the puppies? Have you seen them?" And I would say, "No, not yet, thank you." One of these days I'll see the puppies. Well, I meant to bring a picture and I don't now. I have one of them. And he's a very small giant. And his name is Bowie. And I love him very much. And so it's just nice. I look at him and he's just a real happy And lastly, she also said to me on 2 occasions when we were finished, she would kind of nod. And, oh, let me say about the interview. We're supposed to go in and sort of introduce ourselves and all of this. And the first time I met Louise, she was in bed and she had on a gray sweatshirt, a gray sweatsuit of some kind. And she was very gracious and shook my hand, and it was lovely. But I got the distinct impression that she was interviewing me, because she reclined back in the bed and she put her hands behind her head and kind of looked at me at a side glance. And then there were some moments that I will always remember when her hands came down and her face, that lovely smile that we all remember, and she engaged me, and it was really quite unforgettable. And she said, "You have warmed me on more than one occasion." She's that expression. In closing, I want to say that she most definitely warmed us all. The 3 of us remember her most dearly, and me particularly. I know that I am different now in my profession than I was when I met Louise. And I can only hope that, I'm not sure how or why yet, but I'm hoping that as I proceed in this profession that I'm relatively new to, that I will find the ways in which she touched me, that they will come up again and again, and I will know how and why I'm different. I know that I am, but I'm not sure yet why, but I think it will come.
I'm Paula David, Publications Director of Parks and History Association, and like Maria a few moments ago, I knew Louise as a colleague. And it's from that perspective I'd like to speak for a moment. I first met Louise in 1984 in Grand Canyon. I was coordinating a training course for the National Park Service, and Louise was a participant. She introduced herself as the publications staff for Parks and History Association. White-haired, obviously older than most of the other students, Louise stood out. She also stood out because she took in every word that the instructors shared about her. About midway through the course, an express package came for Louise. And timidly at first, and then very proudly, she pulled out the page proofs for Let Us Remember, one of the books that has been mentioned here today. Everybody took notice. And from that moment on, throughout the rest of the course, the instructors were saying, "Wow, now that's what cooperating associations ought to be doing." I next met Louise 3 years later when I interviewed for the position of Parks and History Association. She could have had the job, but she didn't want it. She wanted to keep doing what she was doing, and that was writing. And I can remember in the interview with Maria, Alice, Liz, Louise, the array of publications put out on the table, showing the kind of work that Louise and Liz Wolfe particularly had been doing in those intervening years. And I remember thinking at the time, wow, this is exactly what cooperating associations ought to be doing. And I was very pleased to be able to join in that effort. The family asked that we share some of those publications, and so out on the table are samples of some of Louise's work. I think they speak for themselves. I'd like to take just a moment to speak of what that has meant to me in working with Louise these last few years. And I'd like to do it by reading the letter that I wrote to Louise in December. It reached her very near the end, and I don't know how much of it she heard or understood. And so I'd like to ask your indulgence for a few more moments to read it now, because I know she is listening this morning. Dear Louise, I hope the enclosed comes as a happy surprise. Enclosed was a certificate from Parks and History and the National Park Service in recognition of her work. As we worked on the certificate, we were reminded of what a mark you have made on park interpretation in this region. Saying that millions of visitors benefit from your work is no exaggeration. Most of the publications you wrote have gone through multiple printings and will endure through many more. It is an impressive list by any measure. But your contributions to park interpretation go beyond the number of publications to your credit. Many parks have better interpretation today because of the questions you asked, the research you accomplished, and the standards you set. Park staffs looked at their sites with fresh eyes when you worked with them on a project. You were never satisfied with what appeared on the surface, nor with what the rangers told you. You delighted in finding just the right detail to bring a park's story to life. Looking over the list of projects brings many memories. For most of your nearly 10 years here, I have had the pleasure of working with you. We traveled to the parks together, and I believe we're a good team. Each of us worked a bit harder, proofed a bit more carefully, because we knew we had to answer to the other's critical eye. I am missing all the wonderful qualities you brought to Parks and History Association and to our relationship. Not a day goes by that I don't say that something wouldn't pass Louise's muster, or Louise wouldn't let that one get by, or I would know that was right if Louise had done it. I am missing you as staff, as colleague, and as friend. Everyone who knows of your accomplishments for Parks and History Association is sad to think that your work with us is coming to a close. Liz and I probably feel it most, but every day staff, board members, people in the parks, and others ask about you and express concern. They also express appreciation for all you have done for us, and that is what the certificate attempts to convey. It symbolizes our appreciation for your talents and commitment. You could have retired years ago, but you chose to stay with Parks and History Association. Because of that choice, we have a series of publications, many of them award winners, which Parks and History Association and the National Park Service are proud to claim. And because of that choice, you set an example for those of us who attempt to carry on your work. Thank you.
Okay.
First, I want to apologize for being late. I feel very badly about that. But it was a comedy of errors, and Louise and I would have had the best fun laughing about it. When I went to Rowan Park School in the 3rd grade for the first time, I met Louise. And Louise became a friend, and she became more of a friend. And Helen Lancaster, I don't know if she's here. She was part of the 3 Musketeers that we called ourselves in school, and we stuck together, and we had the most wonderful time. We got to be very friendly with our teachers, and we did many things. In fact, they took us on a trip to Washington, and we went on all sorts of trips, and we went out to sing Christmas carols and so on together. And we had just a wonderful life at Rowan Park Country School. And we had a funny kind of relationship. We did all sorts of things. Every weekend, of course, we went to the movies. And we would go to the drugstore where we would have crab cakes and soda. And the bill would be something like 25 cents. And we stayed in our friendship for many, many years, and Louise and I had some very funny experiences as life went on. She was the all-around most wonderful person in our class. She was the brightest, she was the best athlete, she was the funniest, she was the prettiest, she was everything. And lo and behold, she started to date much earlier than I did, or than some of the others. And that was very exciting, you know. Ooh, what did you do then? We had sleepovers and so on, and one of the things is we would call up and say, come on over to my house and we'll read. She was a big reader. She beat me by a lot, but I always had something I wanted to read too, so we'd spend a rainy day reading together. And then Louise's mother was absolutely fabulous. She used to take us all over the place. And we used to go to an area that used to belong to the family, I think, that had not been tended, but it had all these cultivated wild strawberries, and we used to collect those and enjoy the fruits of our labor. And we played a lot together at lunchtime. Oh, I forgot to say, at Rowan Park School, the kids knew that there was the bright class and the dumb class. Helen and Louise were in the bright class, and I was in the dumb class. We used to get together on rainy days. We would put on shows during recess and our lunch and everything, and play in the auditorium on the stage. We loved that. We did that. A lot of stuff like that. And then Louise and I, somehow or other, our parents decided that we were old enough that if we wanted to go to Cape Cod by ourselves, that was okay. And so we went to a house that had only an outhouse for the restroom. And we were invited to the home of Carlo Tresca. I don't know if you know, anybody knows who he is. He was the leader of the freedom kind of, I forget what you call it. That's one of the problems. I can't seem to get the word out. But anyway, he was ultimately shot. Anarchist. And leader of the anarchists. And Louise, at that point, was extraordinarily beautiful and charming and so seductive that one of the other people that hung around there, we met all sorts of people like Dos Passos and so on at his house. And one guy, whose name I forget, and who had a lot to do with the media, fell in love with her. And she wouldn't have anything to do with him, but I understand that she told him she went to a place where he was also invited to stay over for a weekend. And he stuck his slippers outside her door to make it look like Anyway, she and I had plenty to talk about. There were many things that we were opened up to us at Cape Cod, and we did meet very many interesting people. Then Louise met Bowie, whose name first name I don't remember. And I knew her very, very well. And she invited Helen and us to her house many times. And she got involved with children. and there seemed to be no end. I never got married till way after Rose Ellen and she were married. And so we weren't as close as before. I forgot to say that when she went to Vassar, I was going to Barnard in New York City. So we often got together for weekends, which was wonderful. And when I went to stay with her at Vassar, she seemed to pal around with the president. And the next thing you know, the president said, well, if you come here again, you know, and Louise isn't here any longer, you will be my guest. This is the way we went through life, meeting all these interesting